Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sally Wantz, and it's 2021. Yay! Yay! Let's hope this is going to be the start of something special, okay? So we're going to open our new year with singing Spirit of Life. We've been doing it for years. We might as well continue, right? So I'm going to ask Ray if he will fire up Spirit of Life with Jeff Lovejoy. Invite Catherine to come on up here and we'll sing for joy.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Yay!
We're joined this morning with Catherine, who will be doing our joys and concerns. We've got Ray over there on sound. Jim is doing our camera. And Brooke and Nin are here. So welcome, everybody. I trust you all received your midweek e-blast that includes our calendar of upcoming services, classes, and important events. Of particular interest is the three-part series from Reverend Elizabeth on Unitarians, Universalists. Part 1 is January 7th at 5 p.m. Parts 2 and 3 are on the 14th and the 21st. Yay, that'll be just fun. Also, Dr. Ruth Miller will be with us next week with her program carrying on the theme of imagination. Rosemary Alden is leading 2 classes at Lane Community College. She asked me to just describe them quickly for you. The nonviolent communication class helps connect the mouth to the head and the heart for a more satisfying relationship with yourself and others. More Health is in Your Hands is a course that offers self-help acupuncture for dealing with emotional challenges like stress as well as physical and mental projects. So see that in the e-blast and sign up for those classes. Also, Dean Shrock is hosting his first Tuesday meditation class at 5:15 on January 5th. All are welcome to come. We have a board meeting Wednesday, January 13th at 3:30. And the members are coming together for a general member meeting because we want to talk about this space. You know, we've been in this space for close to 13 or 14 years, and we have an opportunity now to expand into the beauty parlor that has been vacated. So we're exploring the possibilities of staying here on this property for the next 2, 5, 7 years. We don't know. We're just in the exploratory phase at this point. How would we renovate? What would we renovate? How would we make the best use of this space? So we have called for, according to our bylaws, a general membership meeting for January 19th at 5:15. A Zoom invite will be sent to all members who are invited to attend. Are there any announcements from anybody in the audience? This thriving audience of 6. All appropriately masked, washed down, so we're being very, very careful. Well, I'd like to continue with the chalice lighting, yours at home, the flame you have in your candle. And with Catherine or Brooke, whoever, I would invite you to come forth and light our candle. Brooke, thank you.
Oh, wow.
You look so nice and purple.
Thank you. Whoa, I think I just about burned the place down.
Don't burn the place down. These words come from Heather Janulis, titled For the Freedom of Faith. Our prophets died for the freedom of faith, and we are here in their spirit. We are here to practice and sustain our living tradition, to light a chalice, claiming for justice the heat and power of fire. In our free faith, we are here, seeking freedom from despair, the freedom to be loved as ourselves, and the freedom to grow beyond imagination. We are here, gathered in the name of all that we find holy. Let us give thanks for the gift of gathering with you today, here at FOOF, and you at your computer screen. Blessed be. I invite Catherine to come forward for our joys and concerns.
Good morning, everyone. This is the part of our service where we do joys and concerns. We do this to remind ourselves how connected we are, and we are, with everything and each other, even though we don't see each other anymore. Because we are all one, that incredible inclusive energy is still there, touching our hearts and minds and our very selves. I have a couple of things today. The joy, of course, is that we have come over to a new year. Yay! Now, I always think it's a process. I don't look at it as an event, like everyone thinks January 1st is going to be, oh my God, it's perfect. I see it as a process that we can really hook into and kind of nudge it, push it, encourage it on its way. All of that wonderful new energy, new life. I have another joy. Jay and Pam Gettler, they were they were exposed, they thought, or they were a little bit concerned with COVID. They went and got a COVID test, and they are negative.
Yes!
Woo! Yes, they are negative. Really incredibly wonderful. And I have a concern, about Lori Robertson. She did test positive. Let's keep her in our hearts, minds, prayers, incantations, spells, whatever you do. Whatever is what you do for that healing energy to touch her and infuse her and heal her completely. I think, Ray, you have something? No. Okay, no? Okay.
Yes.
Nin, please come up.
I have a great joy. Brooke and I put on an event on Zoom. We had 100 participants, various countries were represented. It was very exciting. And it was an astrological overview of this time. And then we did a meditation and an evocation, a meditation of going out and surrounding the world with healing energy. And so we're recording it, and so if anybody would like a copy of it, our email is seedersofpeace, like dropping seeds, seedersofpeace@gmail.com. So if you want a copy, we'll send you one.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nin. I participated in that, and it was amazing. There were so many people on it, you had to push the screen over, to see all of the people. It was lovely. It was really lovely, both of you. And I really commend you both to be able to be up there in front of 100 people with peace and ease and serenity. That was great. I think that's it for today. So let's drop one more shell. Let's drop a couple shells. For anyone that I don't know about, anyone that's too shy to come forward to let me know about what's going on with them, we are here for you. We love you. We hold you in our hearts. We keep you in our circle of healing. And so it is.
Did we announce about Bruce?
Last week.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. Always a pleasure to have you up here, getting us joyful and concerned. I don't mean it that way, but thank you. Thank you, thank
news.
you.
The news.
Yes. So we have a wonderful reading this morning. Brooke has written an affirmation that she'd like to share with us. And I'm going to ask Ray if he would play a wonderful musical interlude by Jeff Lovejoy titled Remembering. So we'll play that softly as Brooke reads her affirmation, and then we'll move on into our next program. Come on up, Brooke. So, Ray?
Affirmations for living. I'm standing in the full light of my being. I am not afraid. Nothing can harm me. I realize that I have chosen to live through many seeming catastrophes because I came with a mission. I'm looking into my heart. I feel the divine presence there. I'm claiming my victory over the apparent darkness that I used to fear. I see the brilliant divine light that shines within me, that is me. I'm allowing my light to shine all over the world, the galaxy, and beyond. I'm standing in my truth. Everything I see and experience is a reflection of my thoughts. I know that everything and everyone comes to me for my healing. All is the light. There is only light. I am shining my light for all to see through my words, my thoughts, my music, my dancing, and my art. I am expressing the light and love I wish to see and be in our world. Blessed be.
Stay right there, stay right Thank you, Brooke. That was lovely. So today's message comes from our dear friend from Yahats, Dr. Dean Shrock.
Shrock.
What did I say?
Shrock. You said shock.
Dean. Our dear friend Dean. He titles this, Let Your Imagination Go. So do as the good doctor says and enjoy.
Hi, it's nice to be with you again. The theme for FOOF this month is imagination. And I've called my talk today, Let Your Imagination Go. And the reason I did that is that I used to help people learn to relax quite a bit. And one of the things I would say as part of that is to let your imagination go. I've studied relaxation for a long time. Actually, it was part of my doctoral dissertation. And what I learned early on to help support the use of your imagination, one's imagination, to affect a bodily response, and specifically relaxation, was to use progressive relaxation. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with this term that a Dr. Edmund Jacobson came up with about 80 years or so ago, where you would imagine your body becoming systematically relaxed by going through the various muscle groups. So whether you started with your head and progressed down to your toes, or from your toes up to your head, again, you would most commonly actually imagine both your body tense and then relaxed as a way to help accentuate and be aware of what it feels like to be relaxed. Anyhow, what Dr. Jacobson did to help really support the role of your imagination to create a bodily response was he had people lift a 10-pound weight, and he had the arm that lifted the weight hooked to an EMG. It would literally measure the electrical activity in the muscle. And then he had the same people only imagine lifting that weight, and again measured the electrical activity in the arm, and got a very similar response both when they literally lifted the weight and only when they imagined it. So that was really interesting and helped me a great deal in explaining how it is that one's imagination could affect a physical response. Mostly I was working with health issues. Anyhow, as I studied various relaxation techniques and using this term, let your imagination go, I relied on or came to determine that when you gave special meaning to what you were imagining, it could be more effective, more impactful. So I came up with, if you had all the time and all the money and you could do anything to relax, what would you do? And most people said they would go on vacation in warm weather near water. And I would then have them imagine, after I took some notes from them, they could draw on their imagination, like they could make up the entire vacation and where they would be, or they could draw on their real life experience. But regardless, I took these notes about where they would go, where they would feel relaxed, and then I would have them close their eyes and imagine that they really were there. And I found so consistently that, in fact, when people relaxed, they could actually go right to sleep. By imagining this way, that they became more relaxed. But then I also thought, if people responded well to progressive relaxation, why not have them imagine while they are on their beach, say on vacation, the warmth of the sun on their body, and progressively imagine the warmth of the sun on their toes and feet, and then on their ankles and thighs or calves and shins, and all the way up, so that again, we were not just saying relax, the body wouldn't just relax necessarily, but if you imagine yourself relaxed, the body really does respond as though you really are very relaxed and on vacation in this instance. What really happened early on to get my attention to help make my point today about the power of your imagination and how you can use this in so many areas of your life was going back to the late 70s when I first learned about guided imagery, how you could literally imagine an outcome and literally create that outcome. So whether it was hypnosis or this idea of guided imagery, in fact, what I found is you could really create a response that maybe you think it wasn't even possible. So for example, I think it was maybe 1966. I was playing soccer when I was in college, and I tore up my right knee, and the orthopedic surgeon said that I would really need surgery. I could wait and try to rehab it, but within 10 years, I would have to have the surgery. So I chose not to have the surgery at that time and to just try to rehab it. And I did okay until about 12 years when I really was becoming much less mobile and my knee was actually starting to hurt. So a doctor who had taught me originally how to use guided imagery said, why don't you imagine your knee well and then avoid the surgery? And so many times early on in my life, I remember rolling my eyes at some of the things he would say that just seemed so preposterous. But he had a way of challenging me and said, hey, try it for a week. And if it doesn't work, you can go have the surgery. Anyhow, it turned out by imagining that I could run and jump and turn with ease and comfort as though my knee were normal and well, that within 2 days I had no pain. And by the end of that week, I had full use of my knee, and I've never had surgery. So that, among other things, in fact, one that comes to mind right away that might intrigue some of you is the idea of using it to lose weight. Although in this case, I actually used guided imagery to gain weight. I was very small, and I was told intuitively that because I was going to make a major change in my life to now begin to study and explore guided imagery and some related subjects, that I needed an energy reservoir. That is, I needed to be heavier, more weight, and again encouraged to put on weight. But I was very vain, or vain enough that I just didn't want to, or couldn't quite imagine myself 20 pounds heavier. So again, this doctor said, why don't you imagine yourself a certain size, shape, and weight so that you put on the extra pounds, but that, and more specifically the way I chose to imagine it, is that I would maintain the same waistline. That is, whatever inch waistline I had at the time, even though I'd put on up to 20 more pounds, I would continue to be able to wear the same size trousers, jeans, and so forth. And very interestingly, I was able to do it. And while we could give any number of reasons, try to understand how you really could, I was simply learning firsthand what you could really do with your imagination, even though, very honestly, I was sure there was something more to it. I have called this actually Walt Disney kind of stuff. All you have to do is wish upon a star and your dream comes true. How, in fact, can simply imagining yourself well, whether it was related to my knee or, putting on weight but maintaining my waistline, how could that really happen? So I went back to school. I went to graduate school and ended up with my doctoral dissertation on the subject. And where initially I was very skeptical, I found that there was actually quite a bit of evidence. And as I said earlier, literally wrote my dissertation on the subject of relaxation and guided imagery. And then once I got my degree, we had to do 2 years of internship before we could go on and sit for our exam and become licensed. My first internship for a year was with the Cleveland Clinic, where I actually wrote a research proposal for them to use guided imagery with breast cancer patients, to give you an idea of how serious this could be and how seriously it could be applied, and not just in my personal life. And then the next year, I interned at a rehab hospital where people primarily were recovering from strokes. And the director of psychology at the time was very glad to have me on staff where I could have people imagine, even though it may sound a bit much, their progress doing physical therapy for their stroke or with chronic pain, imagining they had considerably less pain, or whatever it might be. One of the things that I remember stood out for me and for the physical therapy department was actually with people coming in to be fitted for a prosthesis because of poor circulation related to diabetes. They had lost a leg, and now the patients, as you might imagine, were concerned they could lose the other leg because of the restriction of blood flow and the diabetes. So that's when I was feeling very positive about being able to show people how with their imagination they could increase blood flow actually quickly and easily. And so I would actually take a thermometer and put it between the toes of the good leg and get a baseline reading, what was the temperature in their toes at that time. Then I would find out what they would do to relax. And then in only about 10 minutes time, have the person imagine relaxed on vacation. And then we would check the temperature on the thermometer after the relaxation exercise. And I never had an instance where the temperature didn't raise a minimum of 4 degrees. And so then I enjoyed asking them, what do you think happened to raise the temperature? And it really is the fact that you can imagine yourself relaxed, increasing blood flow, especially to extremities, and indeed show them that they could, with their imagination, maybe the total time only took a half an hour to explain and do, and they could make a dramatic impact and possibly then not have to lose another leg. So while I was at the rehab center, I also interned at the Simonton Cancer Center. And some of you will be familiar with the name Dr. Carl Simonton in the Simonton Cancer Center because he was the oncologist who really pioneered and made popular the use of having people imagine their white blood cells carrying away cancer cells as part of their cancer treatment. And even though that was very controversial at the time, I was so pleased to have that opportunity to work with Dr. Simonton. And indeed, we agreed at that time actually to do some research together to look into this further. Then it turned out I became director of mind-body medicine for a large group of cancer centers. And Carl and I were going to work together where I could implement his program, certainly including the use of guided imagery, to help people in their cancer care. And of course, I've had a great deal of experience doing that. I think I was in that position for about 11 years, and I just saw the most remarkable things. And one of the things that I made note of to say today was whether you imagine your immune system, if that's what you were choosing to do, function properly, it wasn't that you had to imagine literally, technically, white blood cells identifying, neutralizing, and carrying away any foreign substance, but you could use your imagination and do it symbolically. So it was interesting one time where we were based in Pennsylvania was actually where Penn State University is. And I often had faculty in my audience that is, dealing with cancer in some way. And this one woman who was actually doing postdoctoral work in biology had breast cancer. And when I explained how you could use your imagination to positively impact your immune system, I was very curious because of her academic expertise and understanding, what, in fact, she imagined as part of dealing with her breast cancer. And she told me, of all things, she imagined Pac-Man. Now, if you're familiar with this, maybe that doesn't sound too unusual, but it was unusual to me and interesting because here she was a biologist. She knew how the immune system worked. And rather than imagining it in some more technical way, symbolically, she said Pac-Man is a perfect example of how your immune system really does work. It absolutely identifies what it's going after, and it's only a matter of time before it gobbles it up and eliminates, in this case, cancer cells. That was fascinating. But of course, and I tell this story in my book, Doctor's Orders Go Fishing, which explains the program I taught at the cancer centers. There was a patient whose name was Bud, and I'm actually glad to use his name. I know that Bud would be very pleased. But I remember when I first met Bud at a cancer center, he was in a wheelchair in great discomfort. He had a terrible diagnosis and prognosis. He wasn't supposed to live 2 months. And I didn't think he'd ever be able to come into my program, but I felt I needed to explain to him what I do and maybe how I could help him, but if not him, at least his family in some way. And interestingly, that night was the beginning of a new class series. And again, though I thought, Bud will never be able to make it, but in fact he did. He came to the class, and when I started to explain guided imagery, instead of him just jumping on the bandwagon, he was really upset with me. Like, Theta, you think I can imagine my pain away? Anyhow, I thought, okay, at least I planted a seed and probably won't see him again. And anyhow, Bud and his wife Shirley came back to every class. And Bud started listening to an audio tape that I provided, having people imagine their bodies functioning properly and that they were happy and healthy and all. And at the end of the 6-week period, Bud came up to me, and now remember, he wasn't supposed to live 2 months. He asked me if he should go buy a new boat. He wanted to go buy a new boat, even though technically he wasn't going to live very much longer. And so I know when I ask people, what do you think I said to Bud, or what would you have said to Bud? What in fact he decided to do, and I couldn't say no or yes, but I had been dealing with this long enough that I would say in general, I would say to people, live like you're going to live. But I could not make that decision for him. Anyhow, he went out and bought that new boat, given his physical health circumstances, the expense of all his treatment and so forth. And he and Shirley said they had the best summer of their lives. He literally listened to the audio cassette I provided every day, no matter where he was. And when he finally did die, they literally buried Bud with his cassette player and audio tape. A very special memory for me. So again, I want you to appreciate how powerful your imagination is when many times we think about when people are imagining something that's not real, or how could that possibly affect the body, just like my way of thinking initially. There's no way the imagination or your mind could really do it. And of course, obviously, I was learning very differently. Then when I completed my research in 1999, when the study was published, where a epidemiologist from Penn State in their biobehavioral health department worked with me to research the effectiveness of this wellness program. And we found that it literally improved survival. And so when I went on in 2009 to write my book, Why Love Heals, because it was becoming more and more important to me to try to understand how it is that, in terms of my conclusion and my research, that people live longer because they felt listened to and cared for and supported, loved and cared for. How could that really translate into remission from cancer? So as I began to research, even in understanding what love is and all of the evidence I could gather to explain why love would heal, I find myself investigating quantum physics more than I had initially. And it really fascinated me to learn that, I see now it would be about 100 years ago, a Dr. Max Planck, a physicist, actually was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for determining that underlying all of physical reality as we understand it is a quantum energy that literally connects everything. And within the next 15 years, 3 other physicists were also awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics because of the deeper and greater understanding about the connectedness of everything. And most importantly for me, the power of the mind, in that they all believed that the act of observation changes the phenomenon being observed, that there was no fixed reality, and that literally consciousness creates. In fact, another physicist, John Wheeler out of Princeton, actually called this a participatory universe. So I hope that you're beginning to get a better appreciation for the power of your imagination and how maybe you can apply it in your life. And so from a very practical standpoint, please remember how I applied it, whether it was with my knee or my weight or so many other things, or how I was able to do it more professionally and help others. And so I want to leave you with some ideas to think about. Esther Hicks, channeling Abraham, has this quote: "The purpose for being in human form is to experience the joy and thrill of creation." And so as maybe you think about this new year, here it is January 3rd, and maybe we're thinking about New Year's resolutions, and certainly following the year 2020 and all of the chaos that ensued throughout that year, instead of maybe focusing on a sense of worry and I wonder what in the world's going to happen, and are we finally going to be able to somehow manage this virus better, and what's going on within the government and the environment and so many things that seem to be in great turmoil, is to remind you that what you focus on, you create. So please try to catch yourself and be aware if you're focusing on what you don't want, instead of what you really do want. So I'd honestly like you to think about now, and certainly through this year, is what is essential. If there's anything I think we've learned from this past year, is what is essential. And now let's imagine and create the outcome we do want. So how about imagining a world living in harmony? It can be something more mundane to be sure. I just thought of the idea of golfing. If you love to golf, if that's a really strong interest of yours, imagine yourself golfing and having fun. And depending on how important it is for you to get a good score, I remember years ago working with some professional golfers who were par golfers. And they were able to take a couple strokes off their game when they practiced, along with imagining that they golfed as well as they could. And you may not think that taking a couple strokes off your game is that big a deal. But if you're a scratch golfer, taking 2 strokes off your game is a big deal. So it doesn't have to be something as grandiose as maybe world peace, although I still think that's a great idea, or imagining something related to your health. And maybe only, if only, imagine your immune system working properly. If it is, this virus is not going to take hold in your body. Imagine your immune system working properly. It is extremely powerful when it is working properly. Imagine it doing its job easily, comfortably, normally. So another recommendation, along with imagining what it is that you want, is I say see, feel, hear. Literally see yourself in that situation. So whether it's seeing yourself getting a hole-in-one playing golf, seeing yourself happy and healthy, and then also feeling it, very importantly, imagine what it would feel like to get that hole-in-one, or to know that you are healthy and able to get out and do whatever you want. More recently, I found that I've been doing a lot of helping people create guided imagery downloads, recordings for surgery, in preparation for surgery, whether it's a hip or a knee. And I've had tremendous success with helping people reduce the medication, the time of recovery, their mobility, and really with a very, very good outcome. So there are lots of ways you can apply this. How would you feel if, in fact, you knew that you could really create seemingly a miracle, whether it was like with my knee or any health issue of your own, like Bud and Shirley? And then lastly, even here, imagine going back to your doctor and the doctor saying, hey, this is the greatest outcome I've ever had. Imagine what you would say to yourself. Imagine what someone might say to you. Act as if. So let your imagination go. You can literally help to create your life anew. A life anew. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. You've set the stage for all who come forth at our pulpit this month and continue our exploration of our January theme of imagination. I look forward to seeing you at 5 o'clock on Zoom, our happy hour, as well as everybody else out there in our viewing public. Join us on Zoom. 5 o'clock. It's fun. It's interesting. So, yeah, be there, okay? All right. So we begin 2021, a brand new year, but with habits we've been forced to perfect since mid-March last year. We've not been able to pass around the offering basket with live music from Laura Lee and Jeff, dancing in the aisles and people telling us to be quiet. Shh, it's a very sacred time. Instead, we've been asking you virtually to offer your pledge of support to our fellowship. We also have been collecting for our new community partners. This particular month, January and February, will be Sayusla Outreach Services, commonly known as SOS. Their mission is to provide compassionate, respectful, and confidential support to people in need. We've invited the Executive Director, Bob Teeter, to join us next week with a brief overview of what they're up to, what they're up against, where are the challenges, where are the joys and concerns that they have, so you can have a better understanding of SOS. So at any convenient time, you can submit your offering to FOOF and your contribution to SOS. You can mail a check to P.O. Box 2502, Florence 97439. You can go on our website and click on the donate button. It's pretty easy. Just takes your credit card, and Designate how much you would like to go to FOOF and how much you would like to go to SOS, and we'll take care of the details. So as we move forward with our offering, and like we like to do here at FOOF, would you repeat after me? Divine love through me
Divine love through me
blesses and multiplies all that I am,
blesses and multiplies all that I am,
all that I give,
all that I give,
and all that I receive.
and all that I receive.
I am prosperous now, blessed be.
Prosperous now, blessed be.
And please know that your contributions are received in very grateful appreciation. At this time, I invite you at home to extinguish the flame of your candle as Brooke comes forward to extinguish the flame in ours. I offer these words titled, Carry the Flame. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that light with you as you leave this place and continue your journey. Share the light with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you meet along the way. I would like to leave you with some closing words from Heather Christensen, titled Individually and Together. Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, 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 many small congregations, just like FOOF. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members, each one of you, by your commitment of time and energy and resources that help make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. So I invite anybody who's here today, you want to sing the peace song with us, I'll ask Ray to start Jeff Lovejoy's version of our peace song, and we'll sing that and wish you a wonderful start to your new year, and hopefully we'll see you on Zoom at 5 o'clock. Jim, stop there before you trip over the chair. Thank you very much. Are you ready?
Peace on earth and let